Hi, I'm LYNN CERUDO, a teacher from Maguindanao 1. Today I'm going to give a presentation about philosophy as a key instrument in establishing curriculum, educational policy, objectives, goals of education, vision and mission of education. This presentation is about the contribution of philosophy to education. I'll provide you with some background of philosophy in education and why it is important to us. Philosophy is a foundation of knowledge, and it is the theory about education. Education is the practical component of this theory. Because of this relationship, philosophy is a foundational in all aspects of education. While philosophy has a critical component, education has been underscored in this discussion as the continuous revitalization of learning about life. Intellectually, education means the formation of understanding as the response to the calling of being, which is the end of our knowing. In other words, to know is to comprehend being in its totality. Our discussion goes ahead and demonstrates that in order for us to comprehend various issues in education, first, we need to embrace the philosophy, for it is the foundation of all knowledge. Second, philosophy underpins education as it is critical and theoretical component. All the problems, the dimension of education can only be understood properly through philosophy, and they are philosophical nature. According to Acharya G.B. Kripalani, no system of education can be properly appreciated unless it is studied in connection with the ideas and the ideals which it represents. I know that today's topic may bring up the number of questions from you, and I want to let you know that I will address as many as I can in the time we have today. I'll begin with my presentation. Take a look at this diagram. What is curriculum? Curriculum involves the following: intended aims and objectives, content, experiences, outcomes and processes of the educational program, expected methods of learning, teaching, feedback, and supervision, syllabus content, knowledge, skills, attitudes, expertise to be achieved, and training structure with length and assessment system. According to Franklin Bobet, a curriculum constitutes various deeds and experiences which are intentioned and directed or otherwise that a child undergoes as he develops to an adult in a society. For him, curriculum is a social engineering arena. He realized that curricular formation must have two important notable features. First, the curriculum must be tailored in such a way that it constitutes deed experiences that a student ought to have to become the adult he or she ought to become. Second, those who design the curriculum must have a knowledge of desirable qualities in an adult society. This knowledge of the good in the society is highly estimated by philosophy. This makes curriculum to have intimate relation with philosophy. It is philosophy that discovers and unfolds the good that all men should aspire and project in all their purposeful education. Curriculum in its entirety has a philosophical, historical, psychological, and social foundation. The field of curriculum has its set of principles and theory. For example, the term curriculum itself is the concept describing very complex ideas. In learning, there are principles such as educational philosophy, curriculum goals and learning objectives which are applied in developing school programs, colleges, training centers, and universities. This field has its own body of knowledge and skills, example in selection of content and making it rely on the principles of knowledge and skills from psychology, philosophy, and sociology. Let us learn about educational philosophy in relation to curriculum such as perennialism, essentialism, progressivism, and reconstructionism. First on the list, perennialism. Perennialism in education is the belief that the school should teach ideas that are everlasting. You can remember the word perennialism by remembering that perennial means lasting for many years. Perennialist curriculum is universal, one what perennialist teacher teach lifted from classic to great books. The next philosophy is essentialism. Essentialism advocates training the mind with what are essential. The emphasis of education is on academic content for students to learn basic skills or the fundamentals arts such as reading, writing, arithmetic, and right conduct. The next philosophy is progressivism. Progressivism is the idea that education comes from experience of a child. Progressivists use curriculum that responds to the student needs and that relates to their personal lives and experience. The last philosophy that we'll discuss is reconstructionism. Reconstructionism or critical theory is a philosophy that emphasizes the addressing of social questions and a quest to create a better society and a worldwide democracy. For in reconstructionist curriculum focuses on students taking social action and solving real problems such as environmental problem, hunger, international terrorism, inflation, and equality. Educational philosophy lays a strong foundation of any curriculum in that a curriculum specialist, implementer of evaluator anchors the decision-making process on a sound of philosophy. I like to turn to psychological foundation of curriculum. Behaviorist psychology, cognitive psychology, humanistic psychology. Psychology provides basis for the teaching and learning process. And that is unitized element of learning process and some of the question which can be addressed by psychological foundation. Behaviorist psychology considered that learning should be organized in order for the student to experience success in the subject matter, hence method of teaching step by step with proper sequencing of tasks. Next, cognitive psychology. Focus their attention on how individuals process information and how to monitor and manage thinking. Her learning constitutes a logical method for organizing and interpreting learning. Learning in this group is rooted in the tradition of subject matter, where the teachers use a lot of problem and thinking skills in teaching and learning. Lastly, humanistic psychology, concerned with how learners can be developed their human potential based on Jesus psychology, where learning can be explained in terms of the wholeness of the problem and where the environment is changing, making the learner continuously recognize his or her perceptions. The schools exist within the social context, societal culture affects, and shapes schools and their curricula. The relation of curriculum in society is mutual and encompassing. Hence, to be relevant, the curricula should reflect and perceive the culture of the society, and its aspiration equally society should take and the changes brought about by the formal institution called schools. Now, I'd like to move on educational policy. What is educational policy? Educational policy refers to the collection of laws and rules that govern the operation of education systems. How did philosophy influence establishment educational policy? By guiding the standard of what will be taught, who will be taught, and how education will be taught. To further understand on establishment educational policy, education occurs in many forms and for many purposes, through many institutions, that is, early childhood education, kindergarten, primary level, secondary level, college and adult education. Education policy therefore can affect directly, that is, the education that people are engaged in all ages. The policy can address or debate on the size of the school, class number of the learners, the teacher's profession and their pay, teaching methods apply among others. Education policy analysis is the scholarly study of education which seeks answers from philosophical thinking. The education policy also looks into the purpose of education, the objectives and goals to be achieved, the research to be carried out in order to come out with the best system, and all these require philosophical thoughts. Philosophy, which is a discipline that is concerned with the aims and goals of education, provides techniques required for setting proper rules and laws that are suitable in a given situation. And so doing is to contribute a lot to a deeper study of the educational policies that are relevant in a given educational setup. It also looks into forms, methods, or results of the process of educating or being educated. The next is the educational objectives. The difference between objectives and educational objectives. The objectives are derived from the goals statement and are thus action statement used to translate goals into a working educational program, while educational objectives are targets that are intended to be achieved at the end of the course. They are operational statements that describe the desired outcomes of the program. Here are some factors in establishing educational objectives: aids in answering the values-laden questions and establishing curricular choices, to give meaning to any curriculum development effort, provide a logical vigor, envisaging transcendence and disciplinary imagination, which helps in the formation of educational objectives. It also contributes a great deal to education and that it makes one being critical and have self-conscious reflection of the realities, which education wants to display, which plays a key role in building educational objectives. Assess the educator in formulating beliefs, argument, and assumption and making value judgment. It also promotes advanced and interdisciplinary studies which provide the forum for creation, accumulation, and utilization of knowledge. Philosophy develops a broad outlook, flexible adaptability, and creativity, and the rousing desire for self-enlightenment and study, hence getting the required abilities for doing research and development. You have dreams, but how many of you have goals? Goals, unlike dreams, identify the specific achievements we want to pursue in our lives. What is goal? Goals are statements pertaining to the outcomes of education, derived from the philosophical viewpoints of the school, department, and community. Like the statement of philosophy are the foundation of curriculum planning, range from broad statement to specific. For example, the mission of the statement of the college, which usually serve as a philosophical statement, will be supported by the broad educational goals. Now, I'll focus on goal of education. Expand early childhood care in education. This goal calls for the support of young ones and the way they should grow, that is, physically, emotionally, socially, intellectually. This is built from the philosophy of Maria Montessori, who is known for her philosophy and method of education of children from birth to adolescence. Provision of free and compulsory primary education for all. This was developed from philosophy of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. This was out to make the parents and learners to see the importance of winning basic education. Promotion of learning and life skills for young people and adults. This places emphasis on learning, and it's developed from the philosophy of Rudolf Steiner, who built a philosophy of education known as anthroposophy. Increased adult literacy by 50%. This calls for a certain level of improvement of adult literacy by 2015. This came from a philosophical theory of philosophy. Achievement of gender parity by 2005 and gender equity by 2015. This goal calls for an equal number of girls and boys in education process. Lastly, improve the quality of education. This calls for improvement in the equality of education in all aspects. This was developed from the philosophy of Rudolf Steiner. Goals are an important part of our lives. They keep us focused and allow for us to achieve things we never thought possible. Goals are also critical both for person and for any organization. Let's proceed to the last topic of my presentation, vision and mission of education. We're going to differentiate vision from mission of education. Vision is what is intended to be achieved, to have quality education and training for development, while mission is the way to achieve the vision. Example, to work in the other education stakeholders to provide, promote, coordinate quality training and research for the suitable development and responsible citizenry. The vision and mission of education statement set towards realizing better result of education and giving system. The ideals, values, and beliefs are the beginning of powerful vision. Mission statement give education stronger motivation, and provide parents with a clear picture of what schools' values are. The vision and mission of education have the same purpose. Their purposes are: provide detailed expectation for administrators, teachers, and other stakeholders. Provide essential overview, goals, and what they want to be in the future. Provide skills and knowledge of identifying and training, and then developing educational vision and mission. It also created logical ways of identifying the existing vision and mission, viewing and determining their relevance and accuracy to education. Philosophy provides skills to administration to ask probing questions which will guide the staff in developing and establishing SMART goals. It helps administrators to come up with a plan which will provide the staff in revising and existing vision and mission statement or creating new ones. Based on my presentation, it can be concluded that through different philosophical schools of thought, curriculum, educational policy, educational objectives, educational goals, and vision and mission of education have been established. These philosophies have guided the development, management, organization, and delivery of education, making philosophy closely related to educational program, are generally philosophical in nature, hence in any educational in nature, hence in any educational theory is linked to philosophy. Philosophy assess and formulating policies, beliefs and arguments, objectives, goals, vision and mission. Philosophy points out to the society what they aspire to be achieved through education. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you.